All I care about is tea in the city where I'm from. I'ma sip until I feel it. I'ma sip it till it's done. And I don't really give a cause my excuse is that I'm young and I'm only getting older. Somebody should have told you, what's up, my dudes? Yeah. Oh, man. MX versus ATV Alive 2. So, obviously, this is probably literally never going to happen. But, damn, isn't it fun to come in here and talk about the possibility of it? Like, oh my gosh. I'm pretty sure a Reflex 2 style game is a lot more what you would call, like, feasible, possible, you know? I feel like whatever actual new MX versus ATV game that we do get, I feel like they're just steadily, slowly but surely making it more and more like Reflex was back in the day, you know? And so I don't know if we're ever actually going to get like this MX versus ATV game that feels like Alive did. I just don't know if we're ever going to get another game like that, but could you imagine? That would certainly be interesting. And let me just preface this by saying, I certainly do want more of a, game that was more like Reflex on the filling on the bike and the, the terrain deformation of Reflex and all that kind of stuff. I certainly want that before I want, an Alive 2 or something like that. Like, without a doubt, it's not even a question. But it certainly is an interesting thought of thinking about like a game like Alive, right? Just imagine a game like Alive, but modern day, super good milestone type graphics to it. And it was like all of the kind of track content that we wanted whenever Alive first came out, or that we thought was going to be in Alive whenever it first came out. Like a full motocross series with a full supercross series. That's what I'm talking about. Instead of all that weird, like coming out with DLC and it was like 2 little arena cross type tracks and shit, right? But just imagine that full blown. Really what I'm talking about here is like the content that should have been in MX versus ATV Alive, and it actually ended up really kind of getting split between Alive and then MX versus ATV Supercross. All of the Supercross tracks that were supposed to be in Alive got released later in a whole nother game. And that's basically how that went down, because they were trying to do all the microtransaction, kind of going down a different road with it and stuff like that. But like, dude, could you imagine a James Stewart compound with like like modern day graphics, and like a game that's similar to Alive, but like not exactly like it, a little bit better than Alive was, but yet it kind of feels like Alive. That's what I'm talking about when I say stuff like an Alive 2. I'm not talking about an exact replication. I'm talking about like a, feels like Alive, but just every aspect of the game kind of advanced a little bit more, filling on the bike, whip system kind of a little bit more fluent filling, stuff like that, but it still has that Alive feeling to it, that would just be crazy to see a game actually. Could you imagine the hype around that kind of game? I don't know if it would get quite the hype of a Reflex 2, but it would certainly be up there. I mean, I think an Alive 2 is like the second biggest hyped thing that there could be as far as a new motocross game. Obviously, a Lucas Oil Pro motocross game, from Milestone would obviously generate a shitload of hype too. But I think at this point, like a Reflex 2 and a Live 2 and a Lucas Oil Pro motocross game is kind of the biggest things that would make everybody shit in their britches real quick in the motocross gaming community, right? Those are the 3 like craziest, type of games that they could come out with. So for them to go in there and actually make a new MX versus ATV game that was like Alive with new graphics, new console, all that kind of stuff, it would be a whole nother level, bro. Like, it would be pretty damn sick. But, yeah, definitely let me know down in the comments what you guys think it would be cool in a Live 2. I think, obviously, track editor, having it on PC. Those are like some of the big hitter things that would certainly need to be in the game, I would say. That is like one of the craziest things about MX vs. ATV Alive is it's one of the only MX vs. ATV games that's not on PC. They have Reflex on PC. They have all the newer MX vs. ATV games on PC. They have a track editor on MX vs. ATV Supercross Encore on PC. Hell, they've even got MX vs. ATV. Man, that sand is bright. They have MX vs. ATV Unleashed on PC with a track editor. It's like, damn, I'm just kind of shocked that they don't have any of that sort of support for Alive. But could you imagine a track editor in Alive? Like, holy crap, bro. But I feel like, obviously they'd have to have like a James Stewart type compound in an Alive 2, because that was literally the biggest thing to MX vs. ATV Alive. Without the James Stewart compound, I mean, Alive wouldn't have been what it was. Let's just keep it real right now. Those were the main 2 Supercross tracks in the game. Not counting the DLC, the 2 little DLC Supercross tracks. And then obviously had one of the best, probably, arguably, one of the best national tracks in the game. Biggest jumps on a national track type thing, right? And there's just something about that Stewie compound in these video games. Even like in MX Sim, it's one of the best tracks on MX Sim. The custom Stewart compound, it's one of the best tracks on MX Bikes. It just, for whatever reason, there's something about that Stewie compound that really, it's one of the best kind of free ride replica compound, whatever you want to call it, that you can possibly have in one of these games. So the fact that Alive does have that, you would have to assume that they would carry that over into an Alive 2, but then they'd have to get, obviously the backing from Stewart again to do it again, and I don't know if they'd go through the trouble to do all that. I'm not sure, but it'd be cool if it was like a reversed, Stewart compound. You know how they always are reversing the track direction in real life. It'd be really cool to see a reversed version of it than what it is in the first Alive, right? But in an Alive 2, be pretty sick. And yeah, track editor would be unreal. Like certainly a PC-based track editor that's kind of like the one in, MX vs. ATV Encore, Supercross Encore, kind of like that kind of track editor. There was just something about Alive that felt different to me than MX vs. ATV Supercross and MX vs. ATV Supercross Encore. Like they lost something in the transition there to those 2 games. I'm not really sure what it is, but those 2 games just don't feel like Alive felt like to me for some reason. Not really sure exactly what the deal was with that, but something in there made it to where it was just kind of a different deal, Those games just didn't give me the same magic that Alive did. And I certainly like Reflex better than Alive. There is no question about that. I think Alive would have been a lot better had it had that full Supercross series in it like we was expecting. It was kind of weird having that just totally cut content. And then on top of that, I feel like Alive's national tracks, even though they're pretty cool, the 2 different national tracks of each biome that are like the same biome feel so similar to each other that it almost feels more like you have like a total of 4 or 5 different tracks versus like what's actually in the game, like 10 or 12, right? Because they have 3 different tracks on the same biome of tracks, right? So let me just show you what I'm talking about real quick. I feel like that's what really hurt the content of this game compared to games like Reflex, where even though you may have like a Sandwick track and then the other sand track that are kind of using the same biome, they still found a way to make those tracks feel completely different. Let me show you what I'm talking about on here, though. So you have, this is like the tropical national. This is the snow national, right? There's 2 snow nationals right in a row that feel pretty similar. Then you've got the like dry, hard packy, deserty style track. Here's another tropical track, which is in the exact same biome area of this tropical track. You've got this snow track that's in the exact same biome area of these two snow tracks. You've got this kind of like, I don't know, some kind of MXGP style standard woodland type track. Here's another one of the dry, deserty style that's in the same sort of area as the Grandview track. Then you got this track, which is in the same sort of kind of area biome vibe of this track right here. Then Bamboo Hills, which is the same biome vibe of these original two tropical tracks. Then you got Catapult Canyon, same biome vibe of Piston Valley, even though it is more sunsetty. And then you got this one, which is the same biome vibe of this track and this track. So in reality, even though you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, not counting the JS tracks, you got 12. Even though it's like that, it don't feel like it's really 12 completely different, unique, tracks. So, and on top of that, not having any Supercross tracks in this game at all, only having national tracks. Obviously, you have the Supercross tracks in the Stewart compound, and then you had the two little Supercross, Arena Cross style tracks in the DLC, but still, that's nothing like having a full Supercross series like you had in Reflex. And on top of that, this game doesn't have a whole lot of other content like, how Reflex has Omnicross and kind of like a trail type series. There's not much of that really in this game. So there's not like a whole lot of, random other kind of content. Jumped that way too far, bro. We jumped to the moon and back, boys. But yeah, I certainly think an Alive 2 would be interesting. I think we should definitely have a Reflex 2 before we ever even think about having an Alive 2 or whatever. But, I certainly do think, get a nice little turn up whip. Kind of cool how you can do that in this game. This was a cool little track right here. Cool little free ride track right here too. That is one thing I loved about Alive is it still had like 2 or 3 different free ride tracks on it, right? Unlike a bunch of these newer milestone games that only give you one, if you're lucky. Only give you one free ride track, at least Alive. At least I can say this game still had, still had adequate amounts of free ride content on it. But also, I would love to see them actually bring back the 252 stroke, even though it is in this game. It is in this game as like a secret bike on one of the DLC free ride tracks, if I'm not mistaken, but you can't like actually really use it in the game. It's not like a fully customizable 252 stroke. So all you really have in this game is 125s, 254 strokes, and 454 strokes, which is kind of bizarre when they literally had it in the game as a secret bike in one of the free ride tracks, but you can only do it, you can only ride on that 252 stroke in that one free ride map, and then you can't use it anywhere else. So that would certainly be cool to see them actually let you ride the 252 stroke in an Alive 2. I think that would be pretty sick. But yeah, man, just want to get in here kind of chitty chat about a possibility of an Alive 2. I don't know if it would ever happen, but it would certainly be interesting to see it. I just can picture that, like, riding on the James Stewart compound, but like modern day motocross graphics and like similar to Alive's physics, but just a little bit better. That'd be a pretty sick experience, dude. That'd be pretty fun. I can't lie about it at all, dog. That would be really cool. And having that full, I could play a game like that for a long time. If it had a full Supercross series and a full motocross series, and it was like the feeling of Alive, but just a little bit better and newer graphics, I could put a lot of time into a game like that, and a track editor, and stuff like that. I really think there's something there with that. Obviously, I feel like we've all been kind of itching for that Reflex 2 type style game forever, because it just doesn't seem like any of these motocross games have really stacked up to the feeling of Reflex of what it had, more than 10 years ago. So we've all kind of been waiting on that. But someday down the crazy line, it would certainly be interesting to see in a Live 2, and it would generate a shitload of hype too. That's the thing. They would sell way more copies with an Alive 2 or a Reflex 2. MX versus ATV All In, or fuck, I don't know what they'd call it, but you can see what I'm saying though. That ain't gonna generate nowhere near the amount of hype and sell anywhere near the amount of copies as an actual Reflex 2 or a Live 2. So, man, I keep over jumping the shit out of that. But either way, guys, I appreciate you tuning in this video. This was a fun one. I've been wanting to make this one for a while. We're going to be doing some more live streams on MX vs. ATV Alive, so make sure you got that notification bell hit for my channel. And we'll be getting back to some fun rut tester live streams and stuff like that. We'll be getting to it soon here, brothers. Appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.